so I am going to read the piece to you first, and then we get down to the business. Inspiration. How can we serve those around us? Answer. By making our lives inspirational and interacting with tact and wisdom. Even if there isn't the chance for actual conversation, we can learn to take in each other's presence in a positive way. Homing in on their goodness and making their specialities our own. This creates an atmosphere of love and regard, which makes it easy then to share spiritual experiences. We should be so cheerful and our lives such examples that they say, here is an angel. Daddy Janki was an inspiration in her lifetime, and she is still an inspiration after she has left, because she has left us this legacy of these jewels of knowledge. And I wanted to start from the beginning with the title of this piece, which is inspiration. Inspiration is a stimulus, because when you see something that is inspiring, it stimulates your mind to begin with, and then your feelings. And then it creates this powerful urge to want to know more, to be able to do that thing that inspires you. And so when I was thinking about this whole piece, just the word inspiration to me is what I would call positive influence. And this took me back to 1972, just when I started coming into theater. And I didn't know anything about the stage or the arts. And I saw a production called Sizwe Banzi is Dead. And there were two actors in this play. And what was amazing was that the two men who were acting in this play were complete opposites. The one was John Kani and the other one was Winston Chona. John Kani was an extrovert. Winston Chona was an introvert. And so when the play opens, John Kani is sitting on stage reading the news and talking about the political situation in the country and everything else that was in the paper that morning. And I was sitting there thinking, this is amazing. This man can sit on that stage and keep us all focused on him, listening to what he was saying. And then as he puts the newspaper down, because someone knocked at the door, he gets up and goes to open the door, and in walks in Winston Chona, who was the other character in the play. And John Kani, then I realized that the play is taking place in a photographic studio, and this gentleman has come to have his photograph taken because he just bought himself a new suit and he wanted to send the picture to his wife who was in the homelands. But Winston Chona never said a single word. his body spoke, what we call body language. While John Kani was busy talking verbally, Winston Chona's body was answering back to what John Kani was saying. And to me, that was the most powerful visual thing I had ever seen before. And I had to go back and think and think and think. But then, of course, when I started working in theater, I began to understand that sometimes actors don't talk. You just watch the actor's body language. But that was my first inspiration. I was so inspired by these two gentlemen. And so that was the beginning of me wanting to come into theater. But coming back to what Daddy is saying, is that Daddy herself is inspiring us to inspire others. And so we have to become examples to the people outside. And I was thinking, because this piece is very, very easy and straightforward. So Daddy is saying, how can we serve? And she goes on to explain that we can become inspirational and inspire others. But how do we do that? We do that through conversations when we meet with people. Sometimes there is no conversation, but the attitude that we present speaks louder than words. And sometimes what Daddy is trying to say to us is that service is not just a question of using words, but it's also a question of how you present yourself to others. And as I was looking at this piece again, you know, that part of me that is the artist, that is the playwright, was coming into play, because this is a brilliant piece on inspiration. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And she actually guides us through that entire process, because she says, how do we do that? Then she tells us, by interacting with others with tact and wisdom. And I go back to the word tact. And the one word that sprang to my mind when I was thinking of tact is carefully, being extremely careful what you say to people, which means what you say to people comes from what you think about them, and what you think comes from what you see. So already our sense organs are at play the minute we meet others. The eyes send a message to the mind sends a message to your feelings, and then your mouth opens. So I was also reminded of Daddy Kumarka, who always said, give respect and get respect. So you have to give respect first, because the person who comes into your presence, who comes to stand in front of you, or you come to stand in front of them, is a human being just like you. So treat them with respect. Treat them in the same way that you would like others to treat you. And so I felt that when Daddy was saying that we must treat people with tact and wisdom, that is the wisdom, giving regard to others. giving them love, giving people appreciation. And when you do that, you will get that in return. Then Daddy says that this creates an atmosphere of love and regard. And so this atmosphere of love and regard, to me, is like fertile soil, because when you put that seed of giving respect to others, those two qualities will grow the relationship between people. And then that gives us the ability to share spiritual knowledge between us. And what was coming to my mind about this piece today that their daddy gave us about inspiration was, what have I learned from it? And how do I put it into action straight after we finish this talk? What I've learned from it comes from something that I grew under, something called Ubuntu. To be human, Ubuntu. And people have many, many ways of describing the quality of Ubuntu. And for me personally, now that I am in knowledge, Ubuntu is virtue, because under the context of Ubuntu, you use all these qualities, these innate qualities of the soul: love, respect, caring. Those are all parts of the aspects of Ubuntu. And it was a word that came quite easily to me when I was thinking about what Daddy was saying, how to serve. And of course, we have different ways of describing this virtue of Ubuntu. In isiXhosa, people say umntu ngumntu ngabantu. And if I do a literal translation of that, it just says a person is a person through other people. But I want to give you a phrase around Ubuntu that may help us during the day to bring us back into that context of being human beings, brothers and sisters, children of God. And I want to say to you today, I am because we are. Therefore, since we are, I am. And so I'm going to break it down. I am, which means I'm a soul, I'm in a body. And this is what makes me human. And everybody else out there who is are, they are also souls in bodies who have the same qualities as I have. And when I give these qualities out to every single person that I meet, when I recognize everybody as my brother or my sister, I'm creating an atmosphere of harmony using love and respect. When we were growing up, if you walked past another person without greeting them, whether you knew them or not, elderly people would stop you and say, we are not cows. Animals just walk past each other. We are human beings. To acknowledge the other person You don't have to say, I know them, because we're all one, we're human. And a greeting doesn't cost a cent. When you say to a person, Sakubona, it means I acknowledge you and I acknowledge your presence. So that they, in return, when they receive that acknowledgement, it brings out the feeling of being loved, of being acknowledged and appreciated. And what will they do in return? They will also say, Sakubona, I acknowledge you and I appreciate you too. And that was the feeling that Daddy emerged from me, that feeling of Ubuntu, that I am a soul in a body, which means I'm a human being. And so is everybody else around me. They are souls in bodies and they are human beings. And when we learn to appreciate one another, we will create a world that is made of people that appreciate one another. And so I think, just to round the whole thing up, today, when we live, remember, I am, because we are, that's all. I am a human being, and we are all human beings. We all have the same exact qualities inside of us, the divine qualities of virtues and spiritual powers, and we all belong to one Father, the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul. And on that note, I would like to say Om Shanti. Thank you very much. If it is possible, can we please have a piece of music so that we can churn on what we have just shared and instill it into our intellects so that it sits with us? Thank you. Om Shanti.